This is the Hyundai Tucson, and seeing as it's new, I think it's appropriate, given it's all the rage at the moment, to do the 10-year challenge with it. So here is the Hyundai Tucson 10 years ago, back when it identified as an iX35. Look, it's a bit more blobby, and look, there's me reviewing it for a different YouTube channel. Now, you're probably considering this car alongside other small SUVs such as the Peugeot 3008, the Nissan Qashqai, and the Kia Sportage. In fact, the Kia and this car share many of the same parts because they're pretty much the same underneath the skin, and they share the same engines as well. So the Tucson, it's pretty good value. It starts from £22,000. You know how I said this car was new? Well, that's not strictly true because it's more just had a midlife refresh, and that includes some new tail lights, new rear bumper, new exhaust, get some new smarter looking alloy wheels. There's some new headlights, fog lights, redesigned grille, some added scuff plates. Now you have to be careful because this car looks pretty showy with all the nice bits of trim on it, but the entry-level car has less of that kind of stuff, smaller wheels, and you get more bling as you move up through the range and pay more money, as you can imagine. Also underneath the bonnet, you've got some new engines, including a mild hybrid for the first time. And on the inside, there's been some tweaks as well. So the dash design is very similar to before. It's all right, but it's not particularly exciting. It's nowhere near as exciting on the inside as something like a Peugeot 3008. But some of the materials are quite nice, and on here it's good as well. It does get a bit scratchy along here. So it's soft here on the door tops, and the armrests are okay. What I can't fault though is how easily everything is laid out. So all the driving stuff's down here, all the ventilation controls are here, all the safety stuff is here. You've got your window controls over here, and I like the fact they've got a little shiny bit on them which help boost the quality. That's something you touch. You can control lots of stuff through the steering wheel mounted controls. Then the only thing I don't really like about it is that the toggle for the track when you're listening to music is up and down rather than left and right, which is just more intuitive. Now, coming on to the new stuff, it's the infotainment system. So Hyundai have upgraded it. Now, I do quite like the way it sits on top of the dash, so you don't have to take your eyes too far off the road. I'm not so keen on the fact it's got this huge bezel round it. It does look a bit old-fashioned. What is good, though, is that you have some physical shortcut buttons, so you can easily prod those while you're driving. In terms of the infotainment system itself, it is generally pretty good. So the screen is responsive and the graphics are sharp. It's just that it all looks a little bit drab. There's just not enough colour, really. Another problem is the on-screen home button is a bit small, so it's a bit hard to hit, but you don't really need to use it that much. When programming a sat-nav, it's all fairly straightforward and easy to input a waypoint if you want to. And the route options let you avoid things like motorways, ferries, tolls, and so on and so forth. What I really like is that a touch of a button, you can just press reroute to try and dodge around traffic. What I don't like so much though is this. Look, I can't just zoom on the screen by pinching. That's the only thing that really annoys me. The car's analog dials are pretty easy to read, and you get a little digital display in between them where you can toggle through different menus and look at bits of information, and it shows very rudimentary sat-nav if you've got that. And generally, like I said, this is a well thought out cabin. I like things like this. Look, we have huge mirrors, huge vanity mirrors, but this extra bit of sun visor there, so that when you put that to the side, it really does block out the sunlight from blinding you. Oh, and look at this as well. You have a little card holder up there. One thing I'm not so keen on though is this, the big bezel around this rear view mirror. It just feels cheap and nasty. What I do like though is this, look, you've got two 12-volt charging sockets there. You've got your USB import, you've also got auxiliary in if you want it. And this particular model here, because it's towards the top of the range, has a wireless charging pad. In fact, while we're on it, let's talk about equipment, because the Hyundai Tucson is very well equipped. Entry-level versions of the Tucson are called S-Connect, and here's the key bits of equipment they get. Dual zone climate control, Android Auto for your mobile phone, or of course Apple CarPlay, depending on which phone you've got, and a rear view camera. The next step up is SE Nav cars, and they add automatic windscreen wipers, rear privacy glass, so now you see me and now you don't. And as the name suggests, you also get satellite navigation for the infotainment system. Oh, and the infotainment screen is 8 inches rather than 7 inches on the entry-level car. In fact, overall, SE Nav is probably the pick of the range. Step up to premium and you get an upgraded sound system made by a company called Krell. Never heard of them. You also get all-round parking sensors both back and here at the front. And you also get electrically operated leather seats with heating. Top of the range cars are called Premium SE, and they get full LED headlamps, a 360-degree view camera which allows you to look all round the car from different angles if you like. And automatic cruise control, which will automatically slow you to keep you a safe distance from the car in front, and even work in stop-start traffic. And you also get this rather lovely panoramic glass sunroof, which stretches pretty much the length of the car. Oh, and you can also open the roof itself if you really want to let some air in. Right, now it's dealt with, let's finish off with practicality here in the front, starting with the seating position. Now, I do like the fact that you get loads of adjustment in the driver's seat. You are going to be able to get comfy, and you can jack it up quite high as well. Shorter people will be able to get a decent view out, and there's plenty of adjustment in the steering wheel, unlike in some other cars. So yeah, no problem getting comfy. In terms of like having bits and pieces around the car with you and storing your drinks, the side door bins can hold a 1.5 litre bottle, which is pretty decent. Area there, if you're not going to be charging the mobile phone, you can just stick it there and just charge it from the USB, I guess. There's another little storage area just down here where you can store junk. There's also a couple of cup holders here, but they are a bit small, and I'll show you another problem with them. Not a problem with a small coffee cup, or a larger one maybe. It's if you want to carry a bottle in there and you're changing gear, you're going to end up knocking that with your wrist, which is a bit frustrating. There's another storage area down there, I don't know what for, it'll just gather dust, I reckon. And you've got a decent bin under here though. Look at that, that just, you know, in places this thing just feels a little bit lackluster and cheap. Finally, the glove box, reasonable size, and I like the fact that, look, it has connection to the air conditioning, so you can chill your drinks. Moving on to the back seats, the first thing I want to point out is that the doors do open nice and wide. Look at that, really, really handy for getting in and out. Although the doors are quite long, so there is a risk that you might end up like having your kids smash them into nearby cars. So here we go, let's talk about knee and leg room. So knee room is actually really good. Headroom, that's a little bit tight. To be fair, it's made worse on this car because it's got this panoramic glass roof which does eat into headroom, but it's not the tallest of car on the inside. And people over 6 foot may find it a little bit snug, but most adults should be fine. To be fair, I'm making this car seem worse because I've got the seat backs in the most upright position. Look at this, you can recline them. I can really like almost lie back, and because the front seats are lifted up slightly, I can push my feet underneath it, and this is really, really good in the back here for long journeys if there's just 2 of you. What is it like for 3 though? So yeah, you do sit a little bit tall and it doesn't feel that comfortable. Doesn't help either for the people on the outside. The side bolsters kind of push you inward, so it does feel a bit cramped for shoulder room. I think if you want to carry 3 people in the back at once regularly, something like a Skoda Karoq is better than this car. Now I should point out that this car does have a fairly flat floor, so there is plenty of room for everyone's feet. One thing I'm not so keen on though is this. Look, the rear seats don't have a ski hatch there. You'd have a couple of cup holders there, and while I'm on the subject, you can fit a litre bottle in the rear door bins, and there's a little pouch on the seat backs which is fairly taut as well, and you do have a charging port there where you can charge your mobile device. In terms of fitting a baby seat, well, the ISOFIX anchor points are covered, but they're easily knocked out the way when you fit the seat base. In fact, you can fit 2 child seats here, but if you do that, there's not much room in the middle. Say if you wanted to carry 2 child seats and someone in between, not ideal for that. You might need a bigger car. What I do like though is this, look, you have one coat holder there and another one there, and also the reading lights, even though they seem far away, they do just beam right in the right place for reading, and the nice stylish LEDs. Finally then, children are going to like this, decent sized rear windows, windows that go all the way down. Minor problem, really small kids may find the window ledge a little bit high to get a great view out, but other than that, not bad at all. So let's talk about the boot. In terms of volume, you have 512 litres, which roughly is just over 100 of these. In fact, the boot capacity is about that much bigger than a Mazda CX-5 and twice that bigger than the Kia Sportages, and it's a really useful square shape as well. There's no load lip, which is handy when it comes to just like lifting your luggage in and out. You can just slide it like that. There's a couple of tie down points about the place, such as there and there if you want to have a net to secure something. There's some hooks you can hang your bags off, but they're a bit odd, these ones here. No, they're not going to work for your bag of shopping, but there's one just here on the seat back which you can hang stuff off like that, and it stops stuff like rolling around the boot as you go around corners. You've got a 12-volt socket as well there if you need to charge your phone, and a little bit of storage under here with a space saver spare wheel. And if you want to, you can actually fit the load cover under there as well, which is really neat and handy. Now, one thing that's not so handy though is that to fold down the rear seats, I have to go back to the rear seats round here and fold them. Oh gosh. So that can be a bit of a faff if you're in a hurry and you just want to load up the boot. Then the boot capacity is pretty blooming large. Look at that. Huge. Not quite as big as a Mazda CX-5. In fact, a Mazda CX-5's boot with its seats folded is about 20 times this bigger than this particular car's, but you do have a flat load floor, which makes it easy to just shove stuff to the front. It's also good that you've got enough depth there that you can actually carry a bike in the boot with the seats folded without having to take off any of its wheels. Now, what I haven't shown you is this. Look, you can actually lower this boot floor if you want to this position here. Now there, when you put the seats back up, you can actually fit 2 large suitcases with 2 small suitcases on top of it and some soft bags on top of that underneath the load cover, so it's out of sight. You can also fit 2 large boxes underneath that load cover as well, and of course it's easy to fit a baby buggy in and a set of golf clubs if you want to. So then, yes, this is quite a good practical family car.
However, this car isn't perfect. Here's 5 annoying things about it.
The sunroof doesn't have an anti-pinch safety feature, as I'll demonstrate now with the Carwow stick of truth. Look at this. Ah! The fans for the ventilation system just seem a little bit noisier than in other cars when you've got them on full blast. The central rear seat belt is mounted up here in the roof. So you have to pull it down and then you sort of affix it in a weird way like that. And as you can see, that gets in the way of the person who'd be sat there. Much better when they're just mounted on the top of the seat backs. Well, I love the fact that the vanity mirrors are nice and large. What's not so good is that the light that you have to illuminate your face is a horrible old orangey coloured light bulb, whereas the rest of the bulbs in the car are bright white LEDs, which are much nicer. Well, you can get adjustable lumbar support for the driver's seat, you can't get it for the passenger's seat, so they're going to have to make do with something like this if they want to prevent backache. Nah, that won't work.
Don't worry, there's still plenty to like about this car. Here's the Carwow 5 core features.
The 2-litre diesel version of the Tucson has a mild hybrid system, which means it has a 48-volt battery, and as you slow down the car, it actually recoups lost energy through braking and puts into that battery and uses that energy to power the ancillaries. However, it can also be used to power a little electric motor to give the car a bit of added oomph. That provides an extra 16 horsepower and does help improve economy. You get the car with an upgraded cruise control system, which will automatically steer to keep the car in lane on the motorway. It'll keep it a safe distance from the car in front, and it'll even operate in stop-start traffic, so you don't really have to do much at all. You get hill descent control as standard, which means the car automatically feathers the brakes as you're going down a slope to make it more gentle. When you're driving, the car is constantly monitoring your throttle and steering inputs, and it can spot if you're starting to fall asleep. And then it'll alert you to wake you up. Now, it actually only operates when the car is driving, not when it's stationary. So why the heck did you do that? This car has a special steering wheel mode button, so you can press it to make the steering lighter when you're parking. Right then, let's talk about engines. And the first thing you need to know is to avoid the entry-level, naturally aspirated 1.6 litre petrol. If you're not doing that many miles, I would go for the 1.6 litre turbo petrol because it's much more punchy than the entry-level engine. It's actually pretty decent. If you're doing lots of miles, go for one of the diesels. Now, you can get a 1.6 litre diesel in either a high stated tune or a low stated tune, and even the lower stated tune one is easily good enough. However, there's also a 2-litre diesel, which is better if you're towing. Now, that engine comes with all-wheel drive as standard and an automatic gearbox. In fact, it's the only Tucson that gets all-wheel drive, which is quite interesting considering that the Kia Sportage is effectively the same car underneath the skin, yet you can get all-wheel drive on some of the smaller engine versions as well. You can also get automatic gearboxes on some of the 1.6 versions of this car. Right, let's see what this Hyundai is like in town. So you sit up high, which is good for seeing over things. Now, with speed humps such as that, you do feel a little bit of a thump when you come off the top of them. So the suspension is a touch on the firm side. It does shimmy around over a broken surface such as this, and I'm picking it up in my man boobs, they're jiggling a bit. Yes, they're my special car testing sensors. I do think a Nissan Qashqai is just a bit more comfortable. In terms of the gear shift, it's a bit notchy, but other than that, it's quite nice and light. As for manoeuvrability, well, I'm going to try and park the car and see what it's like. Got decent sized door mirrors. My parking sensors and camera are helping me. Visibility is good at the sides and the front. The back window is a bit small though. The steering's nice and light, so that really does help. Relatively easy that was. Not too bad at all for parking, considering it's quite a big car. Final test, see what the turning circle is like. So here's a mini roundabout. Can I make it round in one go? Hopefully it won't be too embarrassing. No, don't crash into me. Come on, car. Come on, come on. This is pretty tight, and it's nailed it. It's quite an easy car to drive in town, this. This Hyundai's pretty decent for just cruising up the motorway. It's comfortable enough, it feels solid at speed, and this 1.6 litre turbo petrol in this car has enough punch, so I'm going to put my foot down at 60 miles an hour. Here we go. See how long it takes to get to 70. And that is 70 right there. So it does have enough shove. It's not the fastest, and to be fair, when you rev it, it does start to scream a little bit. Don't want to do that too often though, because it will affect the economy. But if you're cruising, it's actually pretty decent. So Hyundai says it should be able to do around 38 miles per gallon, and I'm averaging 36. On a twisty road, this Hyundai can hold its own. So when you chuck it into a corner, it doesn't lean too much, that's all fine. I'd never go so far as to say it's fun though, because the steering doesn't really do all that much. Plus it doesn't let you know how much grip the front tyres have, so you can't really push it quite as hard as you might want to with something like a Seat Ateca. But really, do you want to do that? It's fine for most people. So then my verdict on this car, should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, I reckon the Tucson is a pretty decent SUV. It's just that there's other cars which just do things with a bit more flair and a bit more style. And that's why you should consider it.